It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as you get a Wednesday. Gary, what's happening?
Just keeping busy.
Yeah.
All the normal stuff.
Yeah. Ozzy Osbourne. Wow. Dead at 76.
And after just doing the that final show?
My wife said to me, it was last Thursday or Friday, we were watching a couple of the clips from that event, and one of them was a backstage moment. Some of the other celebrities that were there were coming around him. He was seated. He couldn't really stand or walk anymore. And so he was seated, and they were backstage, and everybody was, coming up to him, shaking his hand and everything else, giving him a hug. And my wife just said to me, he doesn't look right. I don't think he's going to live much longer. And Ozzy himself had said that not too long ago. He said, I won't be around much longer. And it was the whole purpose of doing the one last gig. But crazy life, 4 friends that grew up in the same neighborhood, get a band together. Where have I heard that before? They start Black Sabbath. They fire him. Don Arden was their manager. His daughter, Sharon Arden, says, I'm going to go find Ozzy. She goes to find Ozzy, rescues him from a motel somewhere that she says was filled with beer cans and pizza boxes. She gets a deal at CBS Records, Epic, which is owned by CBS. And they paid him $65,000 for the first album, which was nothing. But they had Michael Jackson. They really weren't counting on Ozzy Osbourne at all. Here's the disgraced former lead singer of Black Sabbath. She thinks it would be a good idea to go to CBS Records, Epic Records, sit down in their boardroom and say, thank you. Let's bring some Dove. That would be live Dove, and release them right there. So they're sitting there, and he throws one up, and it kind of flies around the room, and they're like, oh. There's another one that's just kind of sitting in his lap. He picks it up and bites the head off. It was alive at the time until he bit the head off. The girl next to him that worked for Epic screams. They call security to usher them out. They're ushering them down, basically toward the door in that boardroom. He grabs another Dove and does the same thing again. So that's how it began, the legend of Ozzy Osbourne. Then a couple years later, somebody throws what he thought was a rubber bat on stage. It was a real bat. He picks it up, thinking it'll be funny because of the Dove story, to bite the head off. And he described it as crunchy. Finished the show and then had to start a very painful round of rabies shots. And said he would never do that again. He would never bite the head off anything again. And as far as I know, he didn't, but went on to become a massive legend with the help of another legend who has since passed. He passed away in 1982, March 19th of 82. Randy Rhoads, his first guitar player, who was a legend that if you play rock guitar, Randy Rhoads. If you don't play rock guitar and you're a rock fan of that genre especially, Randy Rhoads.
Well, because of the airplane crash,
Mm-hmm.
it became, and Ozzy, I was thinking of Ozzy, he went from being basically in the heavy metal world to being part of the mass popular culture because of the
TV show.
The TV
Yeah.
show. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many times I've seen yesterday him at the Cubs game, Chicago Cubs game,
Yeah.
singing. Well, sort of singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He really wasn't a singer. He was a vocalist. And, if you know but someone was actually doing the on YouTube, the breakdown of, his pitch and everything. Could he hit the, notes? And they were saying from back then, before they had the whole pitch perfect technology from his recordings back then, that, he was hitting the notes, but he wasn't what I would categorize as a singer. But, that was the thing, is that probably in metal, the world's greatest frontman, because he built that persona. He started calling himself the Prince of Darkness and all that. But I do believe the death of Randy Rhoads. It was my sister's 12th birthday. We had just finished dinner at the house, and my mom had made a cake. And so we got to the living room to watch the news and eat a piece of cake. And it was this very blue icing that my mom put on this cake. And I remember looking down at it, and I was eating a bite of that cake when I forget which evening news it was. They announced Randy Rhoads had died in the plane crash. And I looked up, and my kid's sister, who had just turned 12 on that day, looked at me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "Yeah, what is this? Where's Ozzy?" And then they announced right after that, Ozzy was not on the plane. But Randy Rhoads became legend. But the influence was everywhere. I remember years ago, went and saw Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and Angus Clark, the guitarist, on stage had brought out his brand new Randy Rhoads Jackson guitar. It's a signature guitar that's still made today. And he brought it out on stage, and I recognized that. I was like, "Oh, great, cool guitar." And then they're doing a ballad. I forget which ballad from Trans-Siberian, but he did a guitar lick that every guitarist knows from a song called Goodbye to Romance, a ballad that Ozzy did. That guitar lick from Randy Rhoads. Obviously, he put that in to pay tribute. So I wrote Angus the next day. I said, "Hey, went to the show yesterday and love your new guitar. It was great. And I recognized the lick from Goodbye to Romance." And he wrote me back, and we had some correspondence there. And you see the influence pretty much everywhere. The song Crazy Train just, kind of went off the rails and just became really, I think, his signature song from his solo career.
Yeah.
But there were so many things along the way. If you're a Randy fan, you got into all of the cuts on the first two albums. And then, then there was Jakey Lee. Brad Gillis from Night Ranger actually finished the tour, ultimately, with Ozzy when Randy died. And then
by the way,
Lee.
that was fascinating when I saw the and I forgot what it was. It was a documentary on Ozzy, whatever, about what happened they continued the tour.
Yeah,
which was
they didn't really miss much. It took a little time.
The bass player Rudy
Sarzo.
Yeah, because he was talking about that about they just said, "Just hang in there, just hang in there, just hang in there, just hang in there."
Yeah, it's,
because he got hit with everything.
It's
from
it was
some of the fans.
It was really insane. And the Texas Jam that summer, so just a few months later, I'm there, and I'm right up close to the stage. And Ozzy comes out, and it's Brad Gillis, and they're just, it's just, they're going full on. Ozzy reaches up and pulls his hair off. He was wearing a wig, and he was bald, like he shaved his head. And it was just a publicity gimmick. And all of a sudden, Ozzy's hair's gone, and it's like, what just happened? And that became just one of those, I don't know, many moments. There's a story of him hanging out with Motley Crue poolside where he snorted the ants. I think that happened here in Dallas, too.
He said that was true.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was there? I forgot who else there was from. The guy from Motley Crue.
Tommy Lee, Nikki Sixx.
I think it was Tommy Lee that said it was true.
Yeah.
Sharon said she doesn't believe it's true, but both Ozzy,
and
because
it was just the guys and Tommy Lee
and Tommy Lee said no, it was
a
true.
dare of a kind of thing. They were like, well, I bet you won't, or you want to see something crazy? Well, I'll do something crazier kind of moment.
Were they fire ants?
I don't know. If they were fire ants,
that would Texas,
that would be beyond crazy.
Or even the carpenter ants. I'm sorry,
right?
I don't want.
No kidding. I mean, it's, and those are the things, because it's funny because I wanted to watch the video again of Sharon telling the story about the dove, and I Googled it, and AI said, well, there's no evidence that ever happened. And it's like, then below that, there's all these videos of Sharon telling the story. One of the former employees there at Epic was in the room, and she said she just, she was horrified by that, traumatized for life, in a serious tone. She wasn't, for her, it was not funny. It wasn't, especially entertaining. It wasn't, it was just one of those, that's how it began moments. But Ozzy going through, I don't know how many bouts with drugs and alcohol, and in the behind the music, there was this story of Sharon coming home, and Ozzy had been drinking, and he looks at her in the eye and he says, and I think this is almost a direct quote verbatim, "We've decided you have to die." And then she's freaking out. And then, of course, at that point, she's decided he needs help for alcohol and drugs. But here's a kid who went through abuse. I mean, as a child, as a young person, he had nothing. They had nothing. They were very poor. Clearly had a share of problems. Ultimately dealt with those problems, I think, probably thanks to Sharon. She's as shrewd as her father in terms of business. And became massively wealthy. Has two great kids. Jack Osbourne is kind of doing his, own thing these days, and he has, I think, 4 kids total. Their oldest doesn't really do the limelight thing. She was not on the show, but they, they seemingly had, I guess, the most normal life you could have if you're in the Osbourne family. But that show was really it became a sitcom. It was Ozzy Osbourne had so many tributes yesterday throughout the day. Donny Osmond was one that I totally forgot about this moment, but it was like it was a Pepsi commercial, and Ozzy's in this. It was back when they were doing the TV show, and so there's Ozzy's 2 kids in the kitchen, and they take a sip of their Pepsi, and then they take their masks off, and they're Donnie and Marie, and Ozzy screams and then wakes up from the nightmare, right? And
I remember that. Yeah.
And then he's next door, or he's laying next to Carol Brady from the Brady Bunch, and then he screams again. And Donny Osmond paying tribute, who's been on our show before, who helped to pay tribute with us to Dick Clark when he passed, but Donnie had a very nice tribute to him. I just forgot about that commercial, but it was that moment, kind of almost reinventing, Ozzy, and Gene Simmons kind of went through the same thing. But if you listen to heavy metal, you have, and like anything heavy metal, you have Black Sabbath to thank, and I would add Judas Priest.
I just remember it was in 1973, and we decided to take a long lunch, first year of college, and the guy we were with had a convertible, and we went driving to a park, and was driving around a park, and he just had on a loop. I don't know how he did it, cassette, whatever. It wasn't the entire album, but it was just Iron Man over and 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 over again. And to this day, because of that, I can't stand that song.
Right.
Because of that. We were like an hour and a half, and it just kept, I go, but you just put on something else. And I am Iron Man. And it was just like, ah! And because of that experience, I might have liked it if it wasn't for that experience. It was just like, he's like, oh, yeah, that's just too much the first time. It was the first time I'd heard it.
Yeah.
And then I saw the Babylon Bee. Ozzy clarified, and it's like Pearly Gates. That's the location. Mm-hmm. Ozzy clarifies to St. Peter he was just joking about the whole Satanism thing.
Yeah. Well, interesting point. He actually prayed before he went on stage every night. He goes, everybody called me a Satanist. I was just singing about Aleister Crowley. Mr. Crowley's one of his songs on his first two out. He says, it was an observance. I wasn't paying tribute to Satan or Aleister Crowley or anything like that. Now, it clearly wasn't gospel music and spreading the word of Jesus, but he said, no, I'm very religious, and I pray before I go on stage. He was a member of the Church of England, so according to his claims. So it's interesting how things years later kind of come full circle, but lots of tributes to Ozzy throughout the day, and rightly so. A career that has certainly made its mark, whether you're a fan or not. And by the way, on Black Sabbath, Iron Man, fairies wear boots. That'll get me going every time.
866-90 Red Eye.
Hi there, this is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Truck drivers are at high risk for carpal tunnel and grip issues from long hours at the wheel, leading to pain, stiffness, and weakness over time. Let's fix that right at the wheel. Using your steering wheel, stretch one finger at a time, starting from your thumb to your pinky. Hold each of those for 10 seconds. Then place all 4 fingers on the wheel and gently press and stretch your palm and wrist. Hold for another 10 seconds. Don't forget to do the other hand. Do this 2 to 3 times a day to keep your hands mobile, strong, and ready for action. There you go. Small, simple changes that can lead to big results so you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more tips and support.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We never got a chance to talk about it yesterday, the death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner.
Oh, man.
That was just, and you saw that someone else, because you and I were talking off the air yesterday about, whatever the rip current was. Another person was also caught in it and was in critical condition. I don't know. I didn't see an update on that particular story.
They said beachgoers rescued him or brought him in, and they tried to revive him, and they couldn't do that. He was on vacation in Costa Rica with his family. I always
the actor. If some people don't know, he was on played the son on the Cosby Show. Yeah,
and I always liked him as he came off as a genuinely nice guy. I've heard things said about him over the years before he died that he was always, if you worked with the guy, he was very, very nice, and he just had a pleasant tone about him. And to hear that, it was like, wow. Because the first headline notification was, Malcolm-Jamal Warner died. I was like, was he sick?
Yeah.
And then I saw the story, and he had drowned while
and I know you and I both took all the life-saving, courses and are good swimmers and all that. And
I was a lifeguard at one time.
Every drowning that I ever see, I always get upset about because I think the vast majority are preventable. I don't know in this case, but it's just like,
they said that current was very, very. They said it was an especially strong current, but I don't know other than that what they were talking about.
Just so sad.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. I love this one. This is actually one of my most favorite things that I saw yesterday.
Okay.
And this was former Breitbart News politics editor Emma Jo Morris on Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is the left's Joe Rogan. He is exactly what they have been looking for and paying billions of dollars to find. He's conversational, interesting, has a broad base of shallow knowledge.
That's my favorite line. That's such a perfect line. I almost want to frame that. It applies to him perfectly.
And is cool and not worried about offending anybody and is offending everybody. But I read that when I read that to you in our pre-show meeting and said had a broad base of shallow knowledge.
I just lost it.
You absolutely lost it because it was just
Well, it's so perfect because he really is, and I think to myself, all right, we've already pointed out that clearly Joe Biden doesn't care about Joe Biden's legacy. The Democrats don't care about Joe Biden's legacy. Hunter, it's weird because in these, recent interviews and statements that he's made, it's on one hand, he's appearing to care about his dad's legacy while throwing his dad's legacy under the bus at the same time. It's just damage after damage after damage after damage. It really is, if you think about it, it sounds like one of those legendary stories that would happen in a drunken rage or something. Because everything he says is doing more harm to his dad's legacy. But again, I don't think any of them care. I don't believe any of them care about his legacy. I think it is full-on scorched crack pipe, and that's the way it's going to be. That's the way it was always going to be when they left, as after things fell out. Are they going to start calling that the Ambien incident? By the way, I don't buy that Ambien story, but I sure would like to know more. Hey, if Hunter is so willing to talk, maybe, just maybe, he'll tell, I don't know, members of Congress about the whole auto pen thing. Get up there and do some bragging there. It's
well, the last person that you want talking, if you're Democrats right now, is any Democrat and Hunter Biden. I'm sorry.
Reconsider that.
Yes, I reconsidered that mid-sentence.
Wait a minute. Is none of them? Actually, all of them is the last. It's just they all should just be quiet. Didn't Carville say that earlier this year? It's just it gets worse and worse and worse because it's reliving, it's reviving and reliving everything that went down during the Biden years. And there's no way to really make that look any better.
You mentioned Carville, and I'm glad you did, because Hill.com had a story. Democratic strategist James Carville said in a new opinion piece for the New York Times that the current Democratic Party is a cracked-out clown car.
Okay.
I'm not kidding you.
The Cracked Out Clown Cars is the name of my next band.
I like that.
Yeah.
Opening up for the Foo Fighters, Cracked Out Clown Car.
Tonight in the basement in Dallas, the Cracked Out Clown Cars.
Let me just read you how the TheHill.com wrote this, all right? Because Tara Suter.
All right.
And, I mean, it's great writing, but she's just quoting what he said.
Yeah.
Democratic strategist James Carville said in a new opinion piece for the New York Times that the current Democratic Party is a, quote, cracked out clown car, end of quote. And there are more quotes here. Here we go. Constipated, leaderless, confused, a cracked out clown car, divided. These are the words I hear my fellow Democrats using to describe our party as of late. The truth is, they're not wrong. The Democratic Party is in shambles in this New York Times piece that was released on Monday.
Wow.
So people are actually coming up to him and saying, is it more than one? Look, the Democratic Party is a cracked out clown car.
Right.
Probably not. I can see probably leadership. I don't know if they're saying constipated. I would like to know what the definition, because I'm assuming he doesn't mean physically. I'm assuming he means politically.
I don't know. I don't know.
It would bring me to this point of asking what politically constipation is.
Well, when you're full of, oh, wait a minute. They are full of it.
Okay, when you're
so they would be.
So
they are clearly constipated.
So you're full of it.
Yeah.
But
that's it.
Okay, you're just full
Full
of
stop.
it. All right. All right.
Yep.
You're
just
good.
full of it.
Now
There we go.
Now
we solved that.
Now remember, you guys are a bunch of right winger. We're not saying this. This is James Carville.
Yeah. What the hell is going on?
I mean, we probably said things like it, but we didn't say this. Carville pointed to a recent clinching of the Democratic nomination for New York City mayor by McNamara, which shocked many political observers, saying it was not an isolated event. That's what we have said. It represents an undeniable fissure in our political soul.
Yeah.
We are divided along generational lines.
Right.
Candidates like Mr. Mandami are impatient for an economic future that folks my age are skeptical can be delivered. We are divided along ideological lines. A party that is historically allegiant to the state of Israel is at odds with the growing faction that will not look past the abuses of Gaza and the West Bank, he continued. From Medicare for all purist to Affordable Care Act reformist, the list goes on and on. Democrats have struggled to recover from their losses in the November election and have gone through furious debates about how to move forward. No, they haven't.
No.
No, they haven't. I will say this. Carville is, at least right at this point, is at least to yesterday, because he may completely, totally flip and come off as a complete idiot and completely clueless tomorrow.
Yeah.
But he's actually on the right path right there because he's talking about the issues.
Yeah.
And that's what got me in here. I mean, what actually got me was a cracked out clown car, but a cracked out clown car brought me in to read the entire article.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the click.
Cracked out clown cars will do that.
Yes, that was the clickbait that got me in.
Right.
But it really wasn't a clickbait because the article actually delivered.
Yeah.
So it actually delivered.
Yeah.
And that's really he's brought up identity politics before and how that's been a problem in the radical transgender movement. But other than him, and now he's expanding to other issues. But the fact is, no other Democrat really is doing that. They're all saying, well, we need to message better, the messaging. But Carville is saying he's right. No, Democrats, your messaging is right on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that your messaging is off. Your messaging is absolutely correct.
Based on your agenda.
Yeah. So when this article from thehill.com says Democrats have struggled to recover from their losses in the November elections, that's true, and have gone through furious debates about how to move forward. No, they haven't. Well, maybe furious, everybody's angry, but nobody is serious about actually doing a proper DNC autopsy, as they call it.
Right.
The favorable views of the Democratic Party were at their lowest in 3 decades in a recent CNN poll, with Democrats garnering just 28% favorability. In the same poll, 54% said they had an unfavorable view of the party, and I believe that comes from Democrats. So there you go. The Hill has reached out to the Democratic National Committee for comment.
Well, here's the thing. You get David Hogg in there, and he's talking about, well, we need to primary some of these Democrats and basically put in more radical Democrats. He's not the first to say that. He was talking about how to, in his opinion, bring the younger voter back to the party. And it's going to, according to him, and he's probably right on this, you're going to have to get more and more radical. And he couldn't be, they couldn't let him stay. Sorry, you don't get to stay. And the thing is that that's actually where the party would need to go. I mean, I don't know about the younger demos, if they're going to win on, if the younger demos are going to start showing up in droves again. But the radical part of the party is leading the party.
Yeah.
David Hogg, by the way, isn't done. I don't believe he's done. I mean, he's just done at the DNC. He's just, he's going to keep going and doing what he does. They want to be activists. How do you come in and do an audit? Really is my whole point. What do you do? What do you sit down and say? This is wrong and this is wrong. You can't tell these radicals they're wrong about anything.
Well, when I read that article, I was like, okay, he's hitting on it. It's not just the politicians, it's the people that vote for them.
Yeah.
And when you see that, you add to this. Again, this was off of Breitbart wrote about this, but it was about Mark Halpern's podcast. It was revealed that poll research in New York City, conducted by WIC, because that's what Carville was saying. The Mandami thing is not an isolated incident, as Democrats are trying to say.
Right.
It's where a significant portion of their party is. But he talked about it and said it was revealed by the poll research conducted by WIC that in a 4-way New York mayoral race, Mandami led with 39%, while Cuomo received 21% of the support, Curtis Sliwa 18% of the support, Adams 9%. In a 2-way race between Cuomo and Mandami, however, the two candidates were neck and neck, with Cuomo receiving 42% and Mandami receiving 41%. The poll also found that Mandami received 55% support from Democratic voters. 55% from Democratic voters, 27% of the vote from independent voters, and 10% support from the Republican voters. But that really doesn't matter in a place like New York City because it's so overwhelmingly Democrat.
Right, yeah.
As we know. In comparison, Cuomo received 34% of support from the Democratic voters, 56% of the support from independent voters, and 61% from Republican voters in New York. How Republican are is that where rhinos exist? 61% support for Cuomo of Republicans?
Wow.
In a 2-way race between Mandami and Adams, Mandami received 47% of the vote, while Adams received 37%. Mandami received 66% of Democratic voters, 28% from independent voters, 9% support of Republican voters. Adams received 21% from Democrats, 63% from independent voters, and 65% support from Republican voters. So let me just go further into it. Do they do a Sliwa thing? No, they don't. They don't ask about if it's head-to-head there. So there you go.
Wow.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up here following the top of the hour, former President Obama, I didn't do any of this. Tulsi Gabbard, well, we'll have more evidence tomorrow showing you did.
Yeah.
That's going to be really, really interesting. So we will get to that. This is, you had talked about the Hunter Biden thing and the whole Abian claim. It's like, remember, Biden was challenged to take pre-debate drug test in 2024.
Right.
When I saw that, I went, oh, forgot about that one.
Right.
Plus, what might be in some of the trade deals out there that the president has said, the administration has said they have made, that more coming up.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Yes, Red Eye Radio. More profitable than Stephen Colbert.
Yes. And we're no cracked up clown car.
We make $1 a profit a year. We are much more profitable than Stephen Colbert.
If we made zero.
If we made zero.
Still be more profitable.
We are more negative profitable than Stephen Colbert. We're losing $1,000 a year.
My gosh, if I thought I could get protesters to rally around losing money, I would have taken those people to the casino with me. What was I thinking?
Oh, man, I want to play this from CBS Mornings yesterday, okay?
All right.
Here we go. One of the hosts here actually brings a reality check, and you can tell they're not happy with the reality check being brought. Here we go. All right.
That's why people are reacting the way that they are.
No, I understand the emotional feelings, but I don't have an MBA. But he's not right that the merger, the $8 billion, is based on reruns of a comedy show. No, people are buying the movies and the sitcoms and the sports. They're not based on reruns of us either. So I think he's wrong about that.
He's saying that it contributed to it.
He's saying it's all encompassing.
No,
the total package of it. That already happened in the past. And he also acknowledged that these late night shows are what he called like a blockbuster kiosk inside a tower record. So the business is broken. And what no one seems to acknowledge is that the politics also changed. The business changed, and so did the politics. And it got way more one-sided than anything Johnny Carson was ever doing. I think we should reflect on those changes as well. It's been a big shift culturally in that regard also.
I hear you, but I think many people feel there's another way to do it. It's a very difficult position to be in, but to disagree with something that company's doing, but also still loving your job and loving what you do. I really feel for Stephen Colbert. I think
for the whole staff of both those shows and whatever comes next for everybody.
I do too.
I think people will miss those shows when they're gone.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
No.
What? I feel for Stephen Colbert. Let's set the table, reset the table here. He personally made a profit, reportedly up to $20 million per year profit personally. He's going to be fine. And it's on the company, the 200 employees. They kept that going for zero reason financially for years. It had to have been known by the people that were working there. And I guess they just assumed, well, I don't know, they're going to keep pouring cash into this loser. We'll just ride the Titanic all the way to the sea floor. And they did.
Federal Communications Commission's chairman Brendan Carr shot back on Monday at left-wing celebrities and politicians decrying CBS canceling Stephen Colbert's late-night show. This from Fox. The partisan left's, here's a quote, the partisan left's ritualistic wailing and gnashing of teeth over Colbert is quite revealing. They're acting like they're losing a loyal DNC spokesperson who was entitled to an exemption from the laws of economics, Carr posted on X. I'm sorry, I just love that. CBS announced Thursday it was canceling The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and that the final episode will air in May of 2026. I'm assuming that's when his contract ends, and it's a guaranteed contract. That'd be the only reason you'd keep it going till then, right? Mm-hmm. The talk show's cancellation led to widespread recriminations among progressive politicians, journalists, and celebrities. Jamie Lee Curtis. Here we go. They just cut out NPR and, public broadcasting. Yes, they're trying to silence people, but that won't work. It won't work. We will just get louder.
Okay.
Right, because you haven't been loud enough.
That's the problem with
rhetoric.
The left.
Yes.
They're not loud enough. Wow.
Look, to everybody on the left, when you lose the guy in the basement,
Mom, the resistance.
When you lose the leader of the media resistance,
Keith Olbermann. Even Keith Olbermann, that's a great point.
When
even Keith Olbermann sees it for what it is.
When Eric and Gary agree with Olbermann.
That's a much better way to put it.
Then we better be scared that our show might be ending.
That's right. By the way, what were the protesters outside of Ed Sullivan Theater chanting the other night? What do we want? CBS to lose a bunch of money. When do we want it? Forever.
Well, what I picked up from that, because we had played it yesterday when they were saying, Trump must go or whatever.
Yeah.
Trump must go. Colbert
stays. Trump must go. Colbert stays. Trump must go. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah. Oh, that's better than counting sheep. That put me right out.
But when they were doing that, I thought about it but didn't say it on the air. And I said, I got to make sure I say that on the air today. Trump is not employed by CBS.
However, they did pay him $16 million yesterday. And the settlement came through, and he posted that they paid it. And there's another 20 in, I don't know, advertising.
Well,
coming.
then let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Trump does not work for CBS. CBS works for Trump.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
16 million.
Oh, and so they also got on it on CNN with Scott Jennings.
All
right. So
okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
Do you think that they're canceling the show because this is what President Trump wanted to let this merger go through?
No. I mean, it's pretty. Look at the reporting on this. On and off the record, executives all over are saying we had to do it for financial reasons. This is a massive show with a massive staff. It's losing a massive amount of money. This is the nature of the TV business right now. You just are not economically viable if you're supposed to be doing a comedy show that's not funny, that's losing $50 million a year. I mean, only liberals, extreme liberals, would think that we have to keep subsidizing partisan rants every night that are economically not viable just because. Why? It makes absolutely no financial sense. He works for a for-profit company. Don't you have to turn a profit at some juncture? And he's not doing it. And, there's a lot of people in this general business right now who think that I exist to go after Donald Trump at all costs. But no one stops to think, do I exist to make money or not? Maybe these things aren't compatible when you cut out half the country from your possible audience.
Exactly.
And we've gone through this before. And as we have said, CBS is not a news network.
Right. Yeah.
They're an entertainment network.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday you were talking about the number of shows that they have, the entertainment shows.
Yeah.
Some that are very well written, Blue Bloods, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that we had mentioned in the
NCIS. I
right.
mean, long running
all
hit shows.
Right. All those type of shows.
Yeah.
They don't do. They're not. Of course they have the nightly news that nobody watches.
Right.
And they have the Sunday morning news shows. But basically they are a drama and sports network.
Yeah.
And you have had in that genre late night TV from the 50s on. That was until you really got to maybe in the last decade a bent to the absolute left.
Yeah.
And so you have this bent to the absolute left. Him saying 200 employees for a show like that, you and I are blown away by that. We're absolutely blown away by that.
Yeah.
I remember when Jay Leno talked about the number of writers that he had on the show. I went, for a stinking little monologue?
The
like
Daily
that?
Show on cable it's dozens of writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and so you see 200 here, and somebody was making the point, if you got funny people, if you got funny people that weren't, that weren't saying every single day, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to be so partisan to the left. If you actually just got funny people, number one, you wouldn't need 200 employees to begin with.
Right.
And boom, you could make it work.
Yeah.
That there are talented people out there, but when your entire when you came up and you said, we are going to make the decision to eliminate half of our audience by taking an absolute stand.
Mm-hmm.
When you say things that are just outrageously stupid and false, as we have said many times with these shows, and we played the audio cuts, whatever, and you're on an entertainment network, and you're making $20 million. Colbert, it was funny because somebody said, how about the Colbert and Rachel Maddow show on MSNBC, and they had them both in their glasses, and it's like,
I was going to say,
it's like, aren't they the same person?
Yeah, right.
And it was hilarious.
Similar
yesterday.
haircuts, similar glasses.
You look at it. I mean, MSNBC doesn't want to be paying Rachel Maddow what they're paying her,
right?
But and if he went now to MSNBC, did they get rid of it yet? Did they sell it yet? I don't think so. No.
I don't. Well, the spinoff happened.
Spinoff,
but it hasn't been sold.
Yeah.
That part of the company that was spun off, I don't think has been sold. Yeah.
But you don't have people, making that kind of money for one show with that many employees. I think it was somebody made the comparison that Gutfeld has 12 people working for him.
Yeah.
Gutfeld. They bring people on, and it's just like, okay, we're just naturally funny. We don't need to have set-up jokes. That's the other thing. You don't need to have set-up jokes anymore. It's people, I think, have moved beyond that.
Right.
And so you can argue all day what he did.
It's an outdated format, in my opinion. You and I come in, we don't have any writers, and I sometimes have no idea where we're going to go on something, and you don't, and then all of a sudden we say something and we'll get response, hey, that was funny. I mean, we don't have anybody laughing at us except for our production staff.
Well, no, but we've gotten it before. How do you guys write all that stuff? How do you how do you script all that, because it has to be scripted, because it's just it seemed too organized, and it's like
none of it is.
None of it.
I would be horrible with a script.
Yes,
I
would be too, Eric, if we had a script. Ha ha ha! You're funny. Can you do an Ozzy impersonation?
You're all crazy. Everyone's crazy. I'm gonna miss Ozzy.
Yeah, and so but no matter what they did as to what they wanted the format to be, it wasn't working. So everybody's having the argument yesterday, and we even said, we threw out a little bit here about what we personally thought they were doing and why it wasn't successful. But it really doesn't matter why you're not successful.
Right.
All that matters is you're not successful.
It's over.
You're not pulling in the money.
Over.
You're gone. And I look at, I've been in a lot of different business and industry jobs in my life. And media is one of the top most cutthroat jobs. I have been let go from a job because true story. I was let go from a job because I succeeded too well. I was told that. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, because, and this is where I was one of the jobs that I was a station manager. I was a station manager at a couple of jobs. And we had great success and took it to number one. And they said, we want to talk to you about, the job that you've done. They go, look, you've done a wonderful job and everything else, but management believes because you've done such a wonderful job, you're going to ask for a big raise. They don't want to do it. And so we're letting you go. That actually happened to me. It's and their whole point was, we're going to be able to increase the profit, but you're going to take more of it, even though I had no intention of going to them to get a raise. I was young at the time. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just happy with the success and figured everything would take care of itself, and they brought me in. I remember going to unemployment and telling them that, and they go, what are you talking about? And so I came back the next week, and they said, oh, my God. This is the first for us ever.
Yeah.
And it just shows you the crazy business that the media that the media can be. And so I have been in my career let go because I've succeeded too much, but they thought that there was going to be a drain on the capital, or the profit, and they didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine being in a situation like Colbert, if they're losing, if it's any close to it, $40 million a year, and you're making $20 million.
And keep in mind, he didn't make $20 million at first. He got raises by millions of dollars,
right,
with each contract, according to the reports. And if that's accurate and true, they were pouring more money down the toilet.
And
to get him to stay.
The sense of entitlement, like when he took off and told Trump, F you, I'm just like, wow, he really has. He needs those 200 employees to write for him, because if he doesn't have them,
he's got nothing.
He's got nothing. But
zero fun.
The arrogance, the sense of entitlement that exists, and especially in media, surprises me, because none of us, nobody that I know thinks that way.
Right.
Nobody I know sits there and thinks, I should have a job even though the company's losing millions of dollars.
Right.
Not in this business.
No.
866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per-gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per-mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Hey, Tri-Night Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I heard last night it was supposed to be like Kimmel and a bunch of other people were supposed to show up.
Yeah, I think they
Did they do that?
recorded it, or
Did they
it already
record it?
happened. Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, and they were all going to, be there to support.
Adam Sandler, I heard, was going to be there also.
Yeah,
it's
not going
to support him.
not going to do anything. It's not going anywhere.
How quick will this story die? Will the left attempt to? I think I just suspect there's no way you can beat the argument and win the American public over saying, except for the loyal Democrat out there.
When they read he was making $20 million and the company was losing tens of millions, people are going to say, I'm sorry, time to go.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. All right, quickly looking at some of the news from yesterday. Trump announces massive trade deal with Japan, setting reciprocal tariffs at 15%. So by saying reciprocal tariffs, the president said that, you mean 15% both ways.
Right.
I wish that wasn't the case. We understand, this happens in trade deals, but, we'll see. And also with Indonesia, I'm not sure because of the wording that I saw with Indonesia and the Philippines. Where they said there's still going to be tariffs on their products coming into the United States because of their non-tariff barriers. And so, with Japan and the tariffs they've had on the United States, this is justifiable, from Trump, by the way. Mm-hmm. There are things we've disagreed with him on this. But when you see that, in a trade deal, is that in a trade deal? Or is that a promise from Japan or a hope from Japan when they will invest $550 billion into the United States? What does that mean? Is that over a period of 20 years, 10 years? What is it? And that's fine. I mean, they're going to invest no matter what in the United States. Companies are going to do that.
Yeah.
As we know.
Right.
Japan builds a ton of things inside the United States. Now, I'm very happy when Trump is now promoting foreign investment in the United States.
Yeah.
That's really good. Now, when he says adding the U.S. will receive 90% of the profits, how does that work?
Duties on vehicles from Japan were of 25% tariffs. 25% on vehicles from Japan were in place under the tariffs on foreign trade-made cars and parts that Trump announced earlier this year, as were 50% levies and on steel and aluminum. And the Prime Minister of Japan said that the auto tariffs are lowered to 15%.
Right, but my point was when they talk about the U.S. will receive 90% of the profits on what Japan will invest.
I wasn't countering your point. I was just clarifying something that a lot of people, in fact, didn't report. I just finally found that because the president didn't really post it in his Truth Social post, about he doesn't go through the details when he announces those things.
I'm assuming what he is saying is that if you invest into the United States, for example, you build a plant in the United States, you're employing the workers, the economic benefit. It's not the profits. All the profits go back to Japan.
Yeah.
I think he's talking about the entire deal. That 90% of the investment stays in the United States, and that's the profits.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because that would make no sense any other way. But the fact is, because Trump used to talk about the fact he wanted things made in the United States by all American companies. So to see this, I'm happy to see.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great. You want investment. Now you don't want. You got to be, on China now. The executive order on property is probably a great thing. You don't want your adversary buying a ton of land, especially around military sites.
Exactly.
In the U.S. That's a very uncomfortable thing. So I look at the Japan deal as a great compromise that Trump has made as to because remember what he originally said. What he originally said is he wants the trade advantage with the United States. He wanted everything made in the United States by American companies. Mm-hmm. And we said that's never going to happen. And as we all know. So the fact that even though if you have reciprocal tariffs of 15%, you live with that because all trade deals have that anyway. One thing that doesn't make me happy is the continuing promotion of the administration of the tariff taxes on America as being a good thing.
Right.
But if the other side's going to do it, then I understand it. But talking about the fact that shows you that it is a success, to me, is just ridiculous. But overall, if this is where he goes, if he's trying to get this thing done, because the one thing that they're worried about is economic growth, as you and I have said it with the GDP. Mm-hmm. They're worried about economic growth, and they're worried about inflation. And inflation has gone up 3 months in a row now in the United States. There's always inflation. It's what the inflation rate is that they talk about going down. But when they say there's no inflation, yes, there's always inflation.
Right.
It's what that level is. But the level has gone up 3 times in the last 3 months. And last month, earnings went down. And we also had a loss of 7,000 manufacturing jobs in the United States. So you look at that, and you look at the extrapolation out of the GDP that he wants, which isn't there right now. Mm-hmm. We talked about the first quarter, and the official announcement won't be for a couple of more days. But if it's anywhere in the middle of what is projected in the first half of the year, we'll have a little bit over 1% growth. When the goal in the administration is 3% growth.
Right. And
so are they more willing to compromise? Is he more willing to compromise than he was before? It seems that he is.
Well, and then, the push basically to kind of get this blitz of trade deals done and announced as soon as possible.
Yeah, keep that stock market going up. I didn't benefit. Yeah. I didn't benefit out of any of the. I'm making this all about me. I didn't benefit at all from the big beautiful bill. I didn't benefit at all for anything for being an old man. Nothing. So keep that stock market going up so my 401k keeps going up.
Yeah.
I'll look at that as the benefit here.
Right, exactly. Well, I thought that's what we were talking about. Sorry. Oh. Why, hello, audience. I forgot you were there. But
so, no, this is, we had said before, we hope that he gets to this point, because the one thing, our goal is the fact of Republicans have to win the midterm, and they've got to win afterwards. And the one thing that sits in the back of your mind in every single poll, is the public isn't happy where the economy is going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you got to get that going. And if he does, and he settles it, and he makes it more fair, with these countries who have been involved in unfair trading practices, some in part, some fully, that's a good thing.
Well, the Prime Minister of Japan telling the media there, we are the first country in the world to reduce tariffs on automobiles and auto parts with no limits on volume. Because one of the things that President Trump has been talking about is those tariffs of U.S. cars on U.S. cars going into their country.
Yes, and they have existed.
And if that's an upside, obviously, for those imports, if the investment is here, by the way, Japan wants that. The Japanese automakers want that because of shipping costs. You look at the setup of, any North America, they always call it, whatever corporation North America, Toyota North America. And when they do that, it's about serving the largest market in the world, which is the U.S. It's more efficient for them to do that. And if they're going to invest even more in doing that, I don't know Toyota specifically, I didn't read that, but that's an example of setting up shop in the U.S. Is that going to bring everything here? No. But if you add more to it, okay. All right. There's not going to be an argument there. The claims or the goal may be Everest, but today you get up to Base Camp 1 or whatever. This is how these kind of things are, in terms of my expectations, were always going to play out. The long-term effect, you saw the GM writing off $1.1 billion
because of the tariffs.
The long-term effects haven't been felt yet because we haven't had enough time. And as those things happen, as those stories come out, and people learn about that, it's like, okay, well, and there's adjustments on that. So what does GM do? Well, you saw the in fact, right here in our backyard, the realignment of some of the lines of what vehicles are going to be made where. Some of what's made here in Arlington, Texas, just right down the road from us, where we used to actually broadcast from, are going to go to Michigan, but they're still, the plant here is still going to be making other SUVs and everything else. So when you look at, the back and forth of it, Lutnick said recently, when the dust settles, most smaller nations will be paying it'll be about 10% on the smaller nations. And we wondered about the what I've called the Laffer curve of tariffs. Where's that sweet spot that you can put tariffs on, get your victory lap without having a massive effect on the economy? And I've thought it's somewhere at 10 to 15%, and it seems to be playing out that way with the exception of steel and aluminum. So, you got to get enough time in the rear view so you can look back and go, okay. And we've seen this. Trump will respond when numbers are changing, when economic numbers are changing. There's always some kind of announcement. There has been so far. Some kind of announcement of, hey, we got a deal. And then there's that correction. Now, you keep doing that, I don't know what happens with the economy long term. So when Lutnick says the dust settles, I'm not sure the dust ever settles around President Trump. Things are always moving. But it's just, you have to get that time, in order to measure that, you need time. But you're getting to the midterms. And the GOP is going to have to keep the House and the Senate if the president wants to finish 4 years of his agenda in a meaningful way. And he's aware of that. They all know that. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what other deals are made. But apparently there are more on the way, and it will be announced soon at their, whatever deals those are. The Japan one, I think it was a good deal. I mean, better than the 25% or higher. So if that's where they settled, Japan's going to buy more, or at least lower the tariffs on U.S. imports to their country on cars. All right, good. I'm all right with that. But I don't have enough time yet to see what the long-term effect is. Nobody does.
I will say it this way. I'm much happier than I was from what the president said he wanted to do
right
3 or 4 months ago.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No trade deal is perfect. But,
yeah. No tariff. Yeah. But I don't expect that.
No.
866-98
Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, one thing I wanted to say about the president, the trade deals with, I think, Philippines, Indonesia, and Japan. One of the best things about it is he got that done before the China was attempting to get everybody involved in to shut out the United States.
Right. Which we had talked about earlier a month ago or so that they tried to.
Right. So he got ahead on that. Maybe that's some of the compromising than what the expectation was 3 or 4 months ago.
I think
is the fact that you need a trade deal.
Yeah.
You need a trade deal there. Plus,
because it's kind of like what we talked about before. The world needs to basically, all of our trading partners need to get together, agree to, carve out China for intellectual property rights and put the pressure on them. Well, they decided to go the opposite direction and try that on the U.S. And President Trump, I think you're right. I think trying to get ahead of that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
A little bit more economic talk because you're not doing your job today. You're out there, blabbing with Ron over there about Ozzy Osbourne and heavy metal. Well, I'm doing the real grunge work in here about the economic situation here in the United States.
Grunge sucks.
I did hear that. Did I hear that?
Yeah.
Did I hear that comment?
Yeah, the grunge bands are all trying to justify why they were disgruntled for so long. We had feelings. Yeah, it's rock and roll. Shut up.
Well, come on.
Not that you're bad musicians. They're very good musicians. I just don't need you to justify the emotion.
But understand. I mean, they really came to the forefront when Clinton became president, so they had a right to.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I did not have anything to do with that. I was all Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, you and I were talking about the announced trade deals yesterday, and we'll wait for more of the numbers as to what actually is going to happen. And we've talked about where the president was 2 or 3 months ago on tariffs, and we remember what happened to the yields on the Treasury bills, and they had to back off, and so there's, as we see, much lower tariffs now, and we see the president out yesterday when he was talking about it, the administration talking about with Japan, Indonesia, whatever, a lot of the reciprocal tariffs that are left on there is because of the unfair trading practices with Indonesia and I think it was with the Philippines on their non-tariff barriers that hurt the United States, and that's why we're putting the tariff on that. And then it seemed as if they were saying it was 15% outside of auto parts, reciprocal, right?
Yeah.
A reciprocal, tariff.
Right.
And you and I have talked about, okay, fine. I mean, I don't like if we're going to have countries that have 15% tariffs on their side and 15% on our side, I don't like that because it stifles economic growth. But if you're doing it because the other side won't compromise on it, we can understand that. And we've never had a problem with using tariffs for unfair trading practices as long as you're honest with the American people and tell them, look, this is going to be a burden on you.
Yeah.
I don't like the way the administration, I saw Charlie Kirk the other day. I think he's a little bit desperate out there after the whole Epstein thing, not knowing what to do, cheerleading again and saying, the experts said tariffs wouldn't work. Look, $100 billion. And the response from everybody said, they don't know of one expert. They don't know of one expert who said that if you tariff, you're not going to bring revenue. That was their point. Their point was a tariff is a tax on the American people, and that money will go to the U.S. Treasury.
Right.
I mean, you're basically you're accusing the so-called experts who said, and by the way, I'm not calling us experts, but I don't know who he's referring to, the experts who said tariffs aren't going to work, and look, they're working because we're taxing the American people. Well, it's been all along. That's been the entire thing. And we know the administration had to move on from a few things. The administration had to move on from the fact that tariffs were going to replace the income tax.
Yeah.
And we said at that point, no, it's not. Stop that. That's ridiculous. It's not going to come close. And we had come up with, at that time, they were talking about, I think it was it the 40? I think we did both. But I think the maximum we saw, and I forgot what the number was of the percentage of tariffs at that time, that they would raise between $700 and $800 billion. And then the administration's old analysis came out between $700 and $800 billion. Because it's not tough to figure out when you tariff something. You just look at you look at the total trade, which we have. The United States, it's out there every year. We know exactly what the trade is that we have with other countries. So it wasn't hard to figure that out. But now promoting the fact that we could have $300 billion into the Treasury, we said you're promoting a tax against the American people. The administration also had to admit that it's the importers who pay it, not the exporters. It's American companies. And that's one of the reasons that Trump said again last week to Walmart, stop raising your prices. You've made enough profit. Stop raising. And I really don't like to hear that from a Republican president.
Yeah, at some point you've made enough money.
Right.
We've heard that before.
That reminded me of Obama at that particular point. And we've seen that Amazon has, the reports out there, hundreds of products that their prices have been raised. But overall, I see what we did with Japan, and overall, I'm satisfied. I'm not thrilled. I'm satisfied. I'm not thrilled with a lot of trade agreements, though.
Yeah.
Especially when they get in the protectionist mode. But I understand, and I think it's a legit reason for Trump to use them, for example, at China or anybody else that has unfair trading practices, with the United States. But there was never going to be a tariff check. Remember, there was the Doge check coming, then the tariff check coming, and we said, stop it. There's not going to be a check coming to the American people, because of that. And as we've always stated, whether you think tariffs are great or not, tariffs do a combination of three things. Even if used justifiably, they will put pressure on raising prices. They will put pressure if you don't wish to raise prices. You will see like General Motors, their earnings are down for the second quarter, and they say it's because of the tariffs, probably because of the steel tariffs, which have raised the cost of steel. Also. Yeah. Raise the cost of steel for people that use it, and therefore I think they've had a 31% decline in what they projected they were going to have in the second quarter that was announced yesterday. So you will have a pressure on prices, and if you're not going to raise prices, well then pressure on earnings, and then layoffs. And we saw last month, for example, 7,000 fewer jobs in manufacturing in the United States, which is the entire goal. Now, we don't make an analysis and a conclusion based on 1 month. But when the administration does, a success is based on 1 month or not 1 month, then it justifies us saying, okay, here's a reality in other numbers that are out there. We're going to bring you all the numbers, not just the numbers that are favorable for a particular policy. But that's what we've always stated. It's going to put pressure on prices. It's going to put pressure on earnings. It's going to put pressure on employment.
Yeah, the U.S. economy is a long-term game, and
right.
You and I look at the movement, just like with polls. We don't know who the most accurate pollster is going to be until, after the election, when the results are in. And you look at the economy, you have to, because you're going to play the long-term game, you look at longer periods as a full year or a full quarter or whatever it might be, 2 or 3 quarters, and you look at that, and everything else on the monthly basis is basically your indicator. And when there's a large jump in that indicator, that movement on a monthly basis, you can say, okay, maybe it goes here, maybe it goes there. But you can't see that. You can't make that assessment without having some time behind you. And I don't know what that's going to, I don't know what that's going to look like, and I don't know that anybody does, because the president has clearly been willing to go back to the table and adjust. When you're talking about 25% tariffs, and now with Japan, it's at 15 on automobiles. But Japan announced, look, we're the first country to lower our tariffs in a big way with no limitations. On the number of cars that we could import to
right.
Japan, that kind of thing. Okay, that's a success. You can say, hey, thumbs up on that. But it's got to play out.
And then I can look at that in 2 ways. I mean, there's always been that thing that with Japan, the consumer in Japan doesn't want the big American vehicles.
That's exactly what I meant by play out. If it doesn't manifest into something real, then it isn't real movement.
But on the other hand, then if they're not going to buy it, why put the tariffs on it?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that never made sense to me to begin with, but that would be the internal politics of what's going on in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see, for example, and again, we don't even, you look at the last 3 months of inflation slowly ticking up. Now, I want to make it clear, and we have an example. It's all not necessarily because of federal policy and tariffs. Local and state regulations can have a huge impact on inflation.
Yeah.
But just getting back to, I think, one of the concerns of the administration is economic growth.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about they were bragging, we're going to have 3% growth. And we know we're going to have that 3% growth when the big, beautiful bill passes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because as you see, we've got, and they were talking about 4.6% economic growth. And you and I were just saying, what are they talking about?
Right.
Where are they getting 4 point? And we saw the one number about a month and a half ago from the Atlanta Fed that they had the economic growth at 4.6 projected for the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's now at 2.4. It went down again last week. They have it at 2.4. The St. Louis Fed has it at 1.59. The blue chip, the blue chip indicators, I think Bloomberg's the ones that report that, is now at 1.4. So you look at the economic growth, and as we've said, there's a combination of all above. You don't take a look. For example, I think it's stupid to look at and say the tariffs are a wonderful success because look at how the American public has now paid $100 billion into the U.S. Treasury. That's not an indication of tariff success to begin with. And Charlie Kirk had that the other day, and as I said earlier, and I think he did that because he's trying to get out and getting the rah back because of the whole Epstein thing.
Right.
But you look at it, and I'm sure the administration, they see all this. They see the economic growth. And economic growth is imperative, because if you don't have the economic growth, you're not going to have anything. It's all going to fall apart if the economic growth isn't there.
Right.
Layoffs will be there. There may be a concern over the lack of manufacturing jobs increasing this year, especially that minus 7,000 figure from last month. So
there was some loss in the previous month as well.
Yes.
So if you look at the total loss so far, I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me for 2025, but I've had some journalist friends in the trucking industry, because manufacturing basically falls under the entire trucking falls into that manufacturing category, because you have to ship what's being made in and out. So they've been monitoring that, and it's several thousand. I think it's over 10,000 for the year so far.
Let me see. 7,000 U.S. manufacturing jobs lost in June.
Mm-hmm.
Manufacturing sector has seen a net loss of 89,000 manufacturing jobs over the past 12 months. But this is interesting. Despite the job losses, there were 416,000, as we mentioned this last week when that number came out. 416,000 unfilled positions in manufacturing in May, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Mike Rowe talked about it. Yeah. Where are these jobs? I mean, the thing is that that tells you there's a massive mismatch in terms of skills and experience, and maybe interest. I don't know.
And we talked about the jobs when they talked about the jobs, what was it, 80,000 of the jobs last month, because they were saying the job market, the jobs sector is doing great. Well, 80,000 of those jobs were hiring local and state government jobs.
Yeah.
Out of the 147. And I think it was 100, it was close to 127,000 was state, local employment, and health care.
Yeah.
And healthcare is majorly impacted by government spending, as we know.
Yeah.
And so those are the challenges. And so maybe they've seen that and said, okay, we've got to get moving on this. We got to get these trade deals done. We've got to get some certainty. It's interesting, because if you talk about, okay, all these promises of countries, and I don't know if the promises of investment are actually in the trade deals, because you can't dictate that.
Yeah,
you can't.
It's not enforceable,
right? It's not. Those things aren't enforceable, but you hope that's the case. But one of the concerns is lack of investment by American companies because of the unknown of what we're going to do with the tariffs.
Right.
And so, if you get that economic certainty, that could skyrocket it. That, along with AI, could skyrocket. Hopefully, could skyrocket. Hopefully, could skyrocket the economy over the next 3 years, which you would want. But I just saw this story, Post Millennial had it. Seattle faces the nation's worst inflation as living costs soar. Let's not believe that it's just federal policy that causes inflation. And we'll give you an example coming up. 866-98-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. We are Red Eye Radio. We're not it's. We're we. That's our proper pronoun. Our pronouns are not it's.
The radio program you are currently listening to, or maybe the podcast in the future, is Red Eye Radio.
Yes. We.
That's right.
Coming up following the bottom of the hour, just to show you how inflation has hit places in the United States based on local and state regulations and taxes. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit, because a fascinating article that I read yesterday that I want to throw your way. Don't want to give the assumption that it's all federal. That, when we talk about inflation, that it's federal or, federal policy, because it isn't. And we'll get to that here in just a little bit. The other thing, when we talk about for example, the steel tariffs. One of the concerns we've always had, and this is from the National Association of Manufacturing, that when we talk about steel tariffs and the impact and you look at GM's losses, whatever, one of the concerns are small manufacturing firms. And I just happened to be going through looking at their analysis of it. And they make the point, and this is a point we've made before, but I want to reiterate it because it comes from them. The majority of manufacturing firms in the United States are quite small. For background, in 2022, there were 240,000 firms in the manufacturing sector in the United States. All but 4,000 firms considered to be small, less than 500 employees. In fact, 3/4 of those firms have fewer than 20 employees, and 93.1% have fewer than 100 employees. And you look at that, and when you see that, you're like, that's a concern because they don't have the ability like the large manufacturers do to withstand the price increases that you get from tariffs, especially when you talk about steel.
Right.
If you're using it, it affects them in a much greater way, and that's always been the concern. So what long-term the policy will be on steel tariffs is still to be seen.
Right. Yeah. There's a history of those being rescinded over and over.
Yes, there
by
have been
presidents in the past. We'll see.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
Red Eye Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the top of the hour, the whole Epstein thing, and the DOJ now is moving to interview Maxwell.
Yeah.
So is I heard Comer also Congress to subpoena Maxwell. And maybe that's why, Mike Johnson, because it didn't go over well with the mega influencers.
Right.
Or formerly.
Yeah.
But
whatever group they're in.
But if they're saying, wait a minute, we're not going to take a vote on this until we get the information.
Right.
Let's get the information. Let's subpoena Maxwell. Let's find out what she knows. What'd you say about her brother? You tell me.
Her brother was on with Piers Morgan, and he said, and I don't know how recent that was. Reading from the New York Post here, this story that they had on it. They don't say when he was on, but he says, quote from that interview, Ghislaine's position on this, for what it's worth, has been she doesn't ever believe that such a list existed. So, all right, if that's the case, well, politically, for her to leverage this for some kind of deal, there couldn't be a better time. There's pressure on all sides. She's exhausted pretty much, except for one last appeal to the Supreme Court, her appeals process. So there's no chance of spoiling that process because, I don't know if the Supreme Court's going to take it up. But if you're her lawyer, you're probably saying, look, we need to make whatever deal we can. And now, the question is, what do you have?
Well, there's two things going on. The Department of Justice looking maybe to make a deal and Congress to subpoena her at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we're not going to talk about it following the top of the hour. We're going to talk about it now.
No, why not? It's, and again, it because deals are made, you've got to show you've got something at the table. You can't just say, I know everything, and then, give me what I want. You're going to have to, there has to be something. You have to give them a pretty good indication that there's something that they're looking for that can help, in the case of the DOJ, get closer to getting justice for any of the victims. That's ultimately, should be their goal. Politically, it's a different thing. The American people need to know the truth, regardless of where the fallout lands and who it lands on. And, politically, that's it for me.
Well, I don't know. I don't think this is a determining factor for the midterm election next year. But the fact is, this is something that, and I don't know whether the biggest problem is going to end up being that small but very vocal portion of Trump's supporters, that this is one of the most important things out there.
Yeah.
But I do know that the Democrats, believing that the Republicans might not really get to the point of the transparency that is expected, will just eviscerate and say, this is because Trump was on the list and Trump was involved in it, and Trump and Epstein and Trump and Epstein and Trump and Epstein, that they'll bring that up again. And they're not going to stop on it. And they look at it and go, okay, we don't need that right now.
Yeah.
So if they know there's not a list, and they know Republicans are clean on this, then they will do it. And you get the transparency. You release information. You have her testify. And you see what happens after that.
The conspiracy theory faction I could see this happening. They go in, they make a deal. She's going to testify, and there's going to be some consideration for, I don't know, jail time being reduced, whatever, from the DOJ. So she's got basically 2 deals done. And then she comes up and says, there is no list. She's just saying that because the government told her to say that to get her out of jail.
To get her,
they made it. That was the deal.
How stupid of me! What am I thinking?
We'll let you out early if you say there's no list.
What am I thinking? It could be resolved, or that's the best they can do.
It's what I've been saying all along. There is no end to this for a lot of people. Because if there is no list, well, then you're fueling the fire. If you put a list out, well, it's not complete. I heard that so-and-so was on, and we all know about so-and-so. It's a never-ending thing. There is nowhere to go. There's no way to satisfy those who want to keep believing, again, whatever it is. There is no proof one way or the other. So you really don't have a resolution. There is nothing to finish here. This move is just going to keep it alive.
Well, what it does take, though, out of it, if she does testify, and even if she says that, is it takes the ammunition away from Democrats.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it'll still be out there, but
yeah, politically they don't get that. They don't get that to use in 26 or 28. So, but it's still going to be pretty much the same discussion. However it falls out. There was no list. Epstein didn't have a list because I did. It's my list. By the way, I read this the other day. Here's one theory that was going around, and somebody posted, here's the one theory that's going around. it was never him. She's the mastermind.
Mm.
And so it's her list. He never had a list. She did. And then, okay, let's say that panned out. And yeah, okay, fine. Here's my black book. And then, but part of it is deleted. Part of it is missing. Or, no, it's complete. Is it? Is it really? Maybe there were 2 black books, and she just gave you the one she wanted you to see. I mean, it's never ending.
Well, yeah, because if she comes out and doesn't say, look, the people on the plane every single weekend were Colbert and Kimmel,
right?
Well, then I'm not going to believe anything.
Exactly. What do you mean? He's not on the list. And that's where it goes.
Here's what we can say. Eric and Gary are not on the list.
I know I'm not. Well, but then I'm waiting for it.
Or are you?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
We can't get the time off to go anywhere.
How can you not be on a list that doesn't exist? Okay, I got to go. Happy Chupacabra. I got to go. Seriously. This is what I mean. The rabbit holes will never end.
So do you think there is a Bigfoot?
Yes. Yes, there is.
I think there is too, because
I saw him in a YouTube video. He's got his own channel.
Because I saw those shows a few years back searching for Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's Nate Bargatze made the same point we did in a bit he did years ago, and it's basically that, how I know there's not a Bigfoot is that it's not been on the news. I mean, we've talked about it. The series, when we come back and they're all screaming, run, 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 right before the commercial break, it's like, I don't know what that was, but it sure does smell bad around here. Well, maybe that's because you've been living in the woods for 9 weeks.
It's like all the ones with the ghosts, too. I mean, that's always the best.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear that? I heard something. Did you hear something?
Did you hear that?
You mean you're in an abandoned building and you heard something and it must be a ghost?
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump to that conclusion.
Right. Oh, my gosh. Eddie Murphy, very young stand-up. Back in the day, like 1980. He's talking about the movie, The Amityville Horror.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if that was me, I walk in, I hear a voice in that house. Get out. They're like, okay, I got to go.
Yeah.
I'm not living in that house.
Yeah, we've often said that when we hear the voice say, get out, we're going to leave.
I'm leaving.
Even if I own the property, I'm a property rights person, and
they had property rights first.
if you're a demon who has inhabited the house or a ghost, I think that your property rights do supersede mine. Do supernaturally.
Right. Exactly.
Are more important than mine at that point. But I hear that get out.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow that advice.
Well, I actually, and for those who don't know, and I shouldn't say this being, on the radio in the middle of the night, but I actually own a chupacabra. Part chupacabra. It's actually a chuberdoodle. It's a chuberdoodle. It's a part Labrador, part poodle, part chupacabra. Looks weird. The back end has no hair.
What did you call it again?
Chuberdoodle.
So do you canoodle with the whatever you said there?
Not when he's shedding. No, because it gets ugly.
I'm going to get emails.
It gets really ugly.
I'm going to get emails. You guys stop making fun. There is a Bigfoot.
We know.
We said there was.
Yeah. I agree. There is. Has his own YouTube channel.
And he plays in the NBA.
Yeah.
He's got really big feet.
Right. Exactly. Size 19 shoe.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, You know, you could. I can sit and anybody can sit and go down rabbit holes all day. Or you could give it a rest. You know? I believe in justice for the victims.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Justice comes through police work and evidence. Get that for me. Get that for me.
Yeah, I did get a few emails, saying, well, on this whole thing, just play the entire videotape from the jail.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but it doesn't exist. Well, we believe it does. Well, they're saying it doesn't.
Right.
That minute doesn't exist.
Right.
So if it doesn't exist, how do you play it?
Right.
Wow. Heard nothing about Dan Bongino. Just thought about that now.
I haven't heard anything lately.
I haven't heard a thing.
Yeah. I'm guessing he's, still there, still working.
Oh, yeah, we know if he was.
But,
yeah.
I know he took a day off, they said. But
well, I mean, I think people want to be part of it. And it's a legit point. If that story was true, what's the beef about?
Well, that's it.
Why was he angry at Pam Bot? What was these? Now, you and I have talked about it, that the administration was the one waving. It came from the White House, waving the binders.
Mm-hmm.
Here we got him. It's tough to sit there and say, you people are weak and selfish for wanting this out when it's the administration that promoted it.
Right.
We've said that over and over again.
Did the Democrats put the binders in the hands of those people?
No.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio coming up on the top of the hour. We will get to that story I was telling you about. That sometimes people think that inflation is purely set by the federal government policy, or natural disasters for certain products, or Fed. What the Fed does. Well, that's not true. Local things can impact it, and we'll have the story coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
One of the things that we've talked about, when you talk about economic growth, you and I always take a look, and it's about 6 months behind when we maybe 3 months behind. 3 months when you get the new GDP numbers as to economic growth. About 3 months later, you get the state breakdown about what states are doing well and what aren't. They break down the GDP by state.
Right.
And one thing you don't see a lot is inflation or price increases in general broken down by state.
Right.
We know there is an effect. For example, we know certain products like gasoline in California. We know that regulation and taxes is why they pay so much more than the rest of the country. But I found this article really interesting from the Post-Millennial. Seattle faces, the city of Seattle faces the nation's worst inflation as living costs soar. And I just want to bring this up because sometimes people are under the misnomer that it's only Fed policy.
Right.
And I'll say price increases because it seems like if you say inflation, it's like, well, no, inflation's always only caused by printing more money. As we saw.
Right.
And it's like, well, actually, inflation and price increases are the same thing. It's when you have inflation that skyrockets, when you have long-term inflation, which is long-term massive price increases every single time. It's because of policies of the Fed, for the federal government. It's too much money chasing too little products.
Right.
It's end of story. That's why when everybody got a lot of money from the federal government that was borrowed during COVID, that's what kicked off the massive inflation that went up to 9%. But there are other things that cause price increases and other things that cause price increases / inflation. Seattle has experienced the highest inflationary pressure of any major U.S. metropolitan area, according to a new report from Wallet Hub, using Bureau of Labor Statistics data. That's government data.
Mm-hmm.
The study compared inflation over the past 2 months and year to year across 23 major metro areas, and Seattle topped the list. Prices in the Seattle area have jumped 1.4% in just the last 2 months and 2.7% over the past year. Wallet Hub found that the region's food prices rose 4.8% over the last year, both for groceries and dining out, while energy costs surged by 5%. In Washington State, they already are paying the fourth highest grocery bills in the country, according to a separate 2024 report by Help Advisor, trailing only California, Nevada, and Mississippi. That means a family of 4 spending $1,000 monthly on food is now shelling out an additional $576 annually due to inflation. Meanwhile, state and local policies are compounding the economic strain. On January 1st, Seattle's minimum wage jumped to $20.76 per hour for all employees, one of the highest rates in the United States. As of July, Washington's gas tax climbed another 6 cents, now totaling 55.4 cents, with annual increases tied to inflation beginning in 2026. Diesel taxes rose by 3 cents to 58.4 cents per gallon and are set to increase in 2027 and beyond. Despite national trends showing gas prices leveling off or falling, Washington State stands alone. The state is the only one in the United States where gas prices are higher than they were a year ago. You get that? In Washington State, they are the only state, not even California. Hold it. Yay! Woo! What an accomplishment. Yay! You beat California. The race to the bottom continues. They were the only state where gas prices are higher than they were a year ago. Much of the blame for the high fuel prices has been directed at the state's Climate Commitment Act, a cap and trade emissions scheme introduced by Democrats under Governor Jay Inslee. The law requires companies to buy pollution allowances at quarterly auctions, allowances that become scarcer and more expensive over time. The added business costs eventually show up at the pump, but it's not just fuel and food straining budgets. Seattle residents are also facing ballooning service costs, particularly for food delivery, in response to the new city's law mandating the $26.40 minimum hourly wage. App-based drivers plus mileage companies like DoorDash are tacking on what they call a regulatory response fee. Extreme regulations like Seattle's laws are making it more expensive for consumers to get the food they love, harming local business and reducing opportunities for the dashers, the company said in a statement. Seattle customers are now paying more than twice the delivery fee charged in other cities like Denver and San Francisco, despite Seattle being a smaller market. And transportation costs are not spared either. A recent analysis by Net Credit found Seattle now has the highest average cost for a 30-minute ride on Uber at a staggering $60, double what riders pay in states like Indiana. The growing economic burden comes just months after Governor Bob Ferguson signed into law what has been called the largest tax increase in Washington state history. That comes from the Post-Millennial. There you go. Wow.
Well, you look at that, and we've talked about those local policies and what they do locally to jobs, raising the cost of raising minimum wage, which raises the cost of doing business locally. You're going to have migration after that, both on the business front and the personal front. That's always going to happen. But then ultimately, what happens when those policies aren't reversed? Because those policies aren't being reversed. Very few of those things are being reversed. I think they're going up. They want to go up even further on minimum wage. And where does it end? Well, eventually, and very quickly, it's passed along to the consumer. You talk about like DoorDash, that's more of a luxury thing. But people see eating out, having it delivered to your door is one thing. But people see eating out, especially with like fast food, as, look, that's my meal. I don't have time to cook. They'll tell you all these things. And you can say, well, we can have that argument. Well, that's how they categorize it. That's how I eat. I'm going to get my food on the go. And when it's enormously expensive, I'm limited.
Well, it's interesting because when you look at a place like Seattle, very liberal, I'd like to see the percentage of young people, for example, in Seattle as compared to Dallas that don't own vehicles. Because if you don't own vehicles, well, then it's not as much of a luxury. I mean, you still have to go out to find a way to go to the grocery store.
Right, yeah.
So you're still doing that.
Or you can get that delivered, I guess.
Or, yeah, that's true. You can get that delivered.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot. Everybody delivers now.
Yeah.
And so the delivery charges will go up. But if you don't have a car, and a lot of young people don't, they don't want the responsibility of a vehicle, then it's much less of a luxury to order food out or even order groceries. If everything is going up like that, you're going to be hit by those price increases. But the major reason I want to read this is just so people know that inflation, price increases, whatever, it just doesn't come because of federal government policy. We know that because of gas prices, but it's interesting to point out just the other things that have gone up and what is the worst area right now in the nation for inflation and why.
Right. Yeah.
Now look at this here. This is ready for an AI story. Saw this the other day and said we got to get this in this week, and so it's only middle of the week, so why not? 3 U.S. senators are demanding answers over Delta Airlines' planned expansion to use AI to set individualized fares, insisting the strategy is fraught with privacy concerns. The Democratic senators, all Democrats, sent a letter Monday to the Atlanta-based airline seeking additional details of plans to deploy AI-based revenue management technology across 20% of its domestic network in a matter of months. Individualized pricing or surveillance-based price setting eliminates a fixed or static price in favor of prices that are tailored to an individual consumer's willingness to pay. The senators wrote to Delta in a letter obtained by Newsweek. Delta's current and planned individualized price practices not only present data privacy concerns, but will also likely mean fair price increases up to each individual's consumer's personal pain point at a time when American families are already struggling with rising costs. Delta Airlines president told reporters during a July 10th earnings call that roughly 3% of the airline's domestic ticket prices are already set using AI, with hopes to reach 20% by the end of 2025. So we're heavy in the testing phase. The president said, we like what we see. We like it a lot, and we're continuing to roll it out, but we're going to take our time and make sure that the rollout is successful, as opposed to trying to rush it and risk that there are unwanted answers in there. He praised Delta's partnership with Fetcher, an Israeli-based tech company that employs AI to process millions of data points instantly, according to the website. The convergence of AI, machine learning, and real-time data processing completely transform how the airlines approach pricing strategy. A post on dynamic pricing in aviation reads, "Gone are the days of rigid pricing rules and manual adjustments. Welcome to the era of true dynamic pricing, where artificial intelligence can process millions of data points instantly to set the perfect price." Perfect for who?
Right.
Perfect price every time. Welcome to the modern age of AI dynamic pricing. The senator said the implications for individual consumer privacy are severe on their own. Surveillance pricing has been shown to utilize extensive personal information obtained through a variety of third-party channels, including data about a passenger's purchase history, web browsing behavior, geolocation, social media activity, biometric data, and financial status. Customers have no way of knowing what data and personal information will be collected by Delta or Fetcher, or how the airline algorithm will be trained, according to the senators. Prices could be dictated not by supply and demand, but by individual need. I guess it would be individual supply and demand. The letter continued, while Delta has stated that the airline will maintain strict safeguards to ensure compliance with federal law, your company has not yet shared what those safeguards are or how you plan to protect American families against pricing discrimination in the evolving AI landscape. The senators want a response by August 4th, including details about the data Delta uses to train its revenue management system algorithm for setting customized prices for fares and other products, as well as how many passengers per day are currently purchasing fares set or informed by the customized model.
Well,
what do I do then? Do I go to one of the websites then and not put in my name first? And because you put in your name, that's when you're going to get hit.
Well, I wonder, is it going to require you to do that now?
You have to put in your name first. Yeah, okay. Because I would think that it may be, because they're all Democrat senators that sent the letter,
right,
that people that make fewer dollars, if the algorithm figures it out, would be set at a lower price than people that make more money. So Democrats would say, good, tax the rich.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, how does it work? What does it make the judgment on? The only way it can make a judgment is it scans to see what you've been willing to pay for the flights in the past and what your salary is. I don't know what else they would use. I mean, that's, when you look at it, that's really it, right? Will it be able to find your debt load? Because everything here is financial. What do you make? What's your expendable income?
And do you have to prove that? If you believe you're going to get a better price by telling them you make very little money, are they going to ask you to prove that?
Well, no, the AI doesn't do that. They don't. You don't. You're not inputting anything. AI is figuring out what your salary is
based on.
I don't know.
What? Yeah, there has to be some level of.
They can't get into my tax records, so what do they?
Yeah, do they want your tax forms from the previous year? How do you do that? How do you enforce it?
Right, but we're not doing it. AI's doing it.
I know.
So we're not submitting any of our.
Well, what
stuff.
I'm saying is that if they give you a this really really high price, people are going to pay that. Comes down to competition.
Yeah.
If AI is saying, "Oh no, you need to pay twice what everybody else pays,"
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, they keep saying, well, we've used dynamic pricing for years. No, you used across-the-board dynamic pricing based on supply and demand.
Market-based pricing is nothing new if you're talking about the cost of fuel, the demand for tickets, and all of that. That's nothing new, but that's not what this is.
Right. This is individual dynamic pricing, which has to be your ability to pay more or less.
Right.
We'll get to more of this coming up.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, the strange thing about this story about Delta Airlines wanting to use individualized pricing.
Right.
And it's really interesting because I'm reading this here, individualized dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing, you know, Uber uses it, the airlines use it, which is, again, when I fly from Dallas to Buffalo and back, it's different prices every time.
Right.
Depending on the time of the year, it can go up. But now they're going to use individualized dynamic pricing. Now, the interesting thing is every article that I've read on this so far, and I've been scanning around looking at different articles, they talk about the fact that the technology to do this is built by a company called Fetcher from Israel, which says its system calculates individualized pricing based on millions of data points, including factors like, and this is a quote from them, like customer lifetime value, past purchase behavior, and the real-time context of each booking inquiry. And so where else I look at this? Their new AI model is a drastic change in that it's personalized, some say targeted, to each potential flyer. Instead of calculating prices based on broad traveler trends, the AI estimates an individual's willingness to pay in real time. That means that two buyers searching for the same flight at the same time could be offered totally different prices based on undisclosed information and factors that AI can surmise about that person. Now, in a statement to Business Insider, Delta denied that it would use any personal information to influence individual pricing, including browsing history, financial data, or location data. However, as of now, Delta has declined to specify what data points the AI does use. How can you decide on what anyone would pay for an airline ticket as an individual if you don't have access to some kind of financial data? And if you're not going to use any location data, for example, okay, they live in a rich part of town. If you're not going to use past purchase behavior, even though Fetcher says they will, but if you're not going to use, well, okay, when I said past purchase behavior, that may be different than including browsing history, unless I'm buying stuff online. How do you fit? If you're not going to use any personal information to influence pricing, how can you charge somebody more and somebody less?
Well, that's it. I mean, look, VPN protocol negates their ability to do all of that. So basically, then it gets down to self-reporting, which means they have to ask, which doesn't make any sense at all because you get into that game and it's a loser all day.
Yeah. They're claiming there's no asking.
Right.
AI figures it out.
Yeah.
How is AI trained to charge you more if they have access to none of your personal financial information?
Right. Or even your browsing history or even your location.
Right, exactly. The car I drive? But if they say access to no personal information and then qualify it, do they mean no personal information?
I don't know how AI
and those are
would,
just examples?
Yeah, I don't know how AI would learn that. Unless, again, you put in your information, then AI is going to have to go back to your financials. You're going to have to, are they going to require that you sign in first in order to shop? Sounds like a loser all day.
I mean, for example, on you look at dynamic pricing for credit cards. I mean, about every 6 months. I think they're really worried. I'm getting old. They're probably going, when is he going to retire?
Mm-hmm.
I get the thing, is your salary still what it was back 6 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
They want to know because of my credit line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They want to know how much I make.
Yeah.
They know where I live.
Mm-hmm.
They know my credit history.
Right.
They don't need an algorithm because it's pretty easy to figure out. Here's his credit score. Here's his credit history. Here's what he makes. Boom. We can charge him a lower interest rate, and we can give him a higher or lower credit line.
Yeah. That's risk assessment because you're using their money.
Right.
In buying a ticket, it's a very simple transaction.
Now, will they do that? Well, I'm thinking, will Ticketmaster?
No, they're going to charge everybody an enormous price.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Yes. Oh, did you say Taylor Swift? Oh, we meant 12,000, not 1,200 per ticket. I mean, it's, you know, there's...
you're a cheating couple? You want to go to Coldplay? $10 a ticket.
Normally, Coldplay is free, but we're going to charge you 10. But it's not, you know, again, there's not a version of this that works. There's not, because if you talk about dynamic pricing based on demand, that's already there. And you may be sitting next to someone who paid a very different price than you did, one way or the other, already. But if it's determined on your personal information, that's where people are going to feel a bit sketchy about this.
Well, it better not be Google AI figuring it out, because on me, they got a ton of stuff wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about that last week.
Well, again, if they are going to require you to set up an account before you can even start shopping, right? You got to log in to see the prices. Well, that means you're going to fill out your information. And that's where AI would get your information. So.
Well, they have that now.
Well, you can shop, you can Google tickets to whatever. Without logging in.
Right.
But if they're going to require you to log in just to shop.
Oh, okay. Right.
Because that's when they set the ticket price. I would suggest you, with any company, you reward behavior, returned behavior. And they all have that to some degree. If you're a return customer, you're rewarded as such.
Well, since I fly 15 to 20 times a year, should I get a bulk rate? Or will they look at me and say, this person's flying all the time, they don't mind higher prices because they fly all the time, even
or
though the prices are higher.
He's flying with another airline, and we'd like to get him over to ours.
Oh, yeah. That's a...
We'd like him to spend that money here. So, again, I don't see a version of this that works, because the problem will be is that everybody will be talking about it if it becomes an issue at any point. It'll be all over social media. And then there will be inevitably somebody on TikTok, here's how to work the system and get the best price.
And people will be doing comparative pricing.
Right. And here's how you can get the best price. You shop other airlines.
And what will the maximum price differentiation be?
Right.
Will they charge somebody $300 a ticket?
Right.
And somebody $1,000? For example, if now they claim they're not going to use any private financial information. But if they did, for example, if you were able to get somebody's salary and somebody makes $10 million a year and the other person makes $30,000 a year, would they charge the person that makes $30,000 a year the paying price point, because they use that term, paying price point, of $300, and you'd be paying $3,000 for a coach seat if you make $10 million, because that's nothing.
Right. Oh, there's somebody who buys a last-minute ticket is going to pay a lot more right now.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Or sometimes you don't if the plane's.
But it's different because, again, what are you doing here? You're saying, well, no, because of your personal situation, not just that you bought it last minute or whatever, or that you planned ahead, you got a better deal. They're saying your personal information. That's where people are going to look at this and raise eyebrows. Because I don't want it's you feel like, well, you're judging me differently than anybody else on this plane. And the question would be, where's the incentive? How do I work toward a better ticket price? What am I supposed to do?
I give it 2 weeks, and they might back off it.
Well, they're certainly going to have to talk about it more. They're going to have to clarify.
Yeah.
You need to lay out the criteria of what's going to happen with AI. If you're saying AI is going to do it and assess the market, the true market value, what they call the true market value of that moment when that person is shopping regardless of who the individual is, that's one thing. But you better lay it out and be clear about it.
The problem, though, is that would be the circumstance of what they do. Part of the circumstances they look at right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when they say individualized and what your pain point is, that's got nothing to do with when you're flying or your connections.
Or does it? I mean, I don't know. What are they, again, what's the criteria? They have to explain this.
Otherwise, you end up doing what we're doing, which is just guessing. And it's not good.
And nobody wants to do that.
No.
There are other choices, and you don't want people making those other choices because you decided to cloud the picture.
You know, it's the other thing, like I saw this, we talked about last week, where Hertz is going to use AI to figure out if there's any damage to your vehicle at all, even scratches. And, when I rented my car last weekend, I went through it. It's in the dark. I went through it looking for anything there. And I didn't rent from Hertz.
Right.
But still, it's like makes you look more. It's a little dark. But when it was light out, I saw a little dent. And I'm like, would the AI pick that up? And I didn't pick that up. And would they charge me for that?
Well, and you don't have the same technology to detect that when you do your pre-trip inspection, when you get in.
Right.
And they do. I could argue in court and say, this isn't fair. Or I could just go to another rental agency.
Exactly. I don't rent from Hertz, so I don't.
Yeah.
Rent.
So,
and they're testing it right now.
Right. Look, it's a true thing that people don't take care of rental cars. Some people. There are a few people out there that don't care. And they may get a door ding or whatever, or they may take that little car that's a two-wheel drive off-roading or something. And they don't care because they're just going to turn it back in and nobody will know. So that's what creates this problem. You're going to have to. They have to get down to the very little things that people do to these cars. But for those who don't detect it going out, how do I know that the staff, somebody in the staff, didn't put that door ding in place?
Oh yeah,
while they were processing the car. I don't know that.
Or for me, I definitely checked my vehicle because they actually gave me a Dodge Challenger.
Yeah.
I did hit the gas once. I didn't do anything crazy in it, but I hit. Yeah. It reminded me of my 1967 Ford Fairlane GTA 390 cubic inch. That thing accelerates.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. We are Red Eye Radio. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Why? Well, we have another hour left in the show, but when the show's over, it becomes our podcast. The show becomes our podcast. We record the show. It becomes our podcast. You have our app. You can listen to the show whenever you want. Okay? That's simple enough. And if for some reason you cannot listen to one of our great radio stations live when we're on the air, we also stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app. Yep. So we make it very, very simple for you. Yeah, I just have a feeling that the whole individual dynamic pricing is not going to go over well with the consuming public.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Unless you start giving answers and say we're only going to tax the rich.
Right.
Yeah, that might fly.
That's the problem.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.